Greetings, everybody. Hello, hello, President Donner.
Hello.
Hello,
Hi, guys.
Craig. Hi, John.
Yes, how you doing, Steve?
Okay.
Hello. How are you?
Good.
Good.
A little cooler today.
Slightly, yeah.
Oh,
It helped.
yesterday was miserable.
Good for the tomatoes.
Uh-huh. If I was a tomato, I'd appreciate that. My air conditioning went out last week, so
Oh,
they're fixing it Friday. Well, half of it did.
Well, that's horrible.
Well, this is ideal weather for tomatoes. They like it hot.
they do like it hot. Yes. All my
We'll
green
be
ones,
about that.
all the green ones will turn red, hopefully.
Go to bed. Go to bed. Go to bed. Go to bed. I have no idea what it is with my dog and Zoom meetings. It's hilarious.
He wants to participate.
He
Yeah.
does.
He's a show dog.
It's, oh my God. I could sit at the computer for hours doing other work. As soon as he hears the Zoom, he just, okay,
Ah,
it is time to bug my owner and get on his lap.
that's funny.
It is funny. Are you still down at the beach, John?
No, back in Moraga.
It is 7 p.m.
Okay. Thank you, Marcia. Welcome to the Moraga-Orinda Fire District regular board meeting, August 17th, 2022. This is our 7 p.m. open session. The board did not have a closed session this evening. Can we go to the next slide, please, Marcia? Marcia, can we please call the meeting to order, and can we do a roll call, please, Marcia?
The Director Bates is absent. Director Danziger,
Here.
Director Jex,
Here,
Director Jorgens,
Here.
President Donner.
Here. And then new little tradition for me tonight, and just in honor of our chief's service to the country with the military, I'd ask the chief if he would please do the Pledge of Allegiance. Thank you, Chief.
Yes, sir. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Consent agenda item 2.1, adopting resolution 22-25, re-ratifying findings and determine a need to continue holding remote meetings by teleconference. I will open public comment on consent agenda item 2.1.
We do not have any hands raised, and we've not received any written public comment.
Thank you, Marcia. I will close public comment on agenda item 2.1.
I'd like to make a motion to adopt resolution 22, sorry. Do we have any discussion? I'm sorry, I jumped it. Any? You want me to proceed or?
No comment from me. Any other
Okay.
directors have a comment?
Comments.
Okay, hearing none, I'll make a motion to adopt resolution 22-25, re-ratifying the findings and determining a need to continue holding remote meetings by teleconference.
Okay.
I second the motion.
Okay, Marcia, could I get a vote, please?
Director Danziger,
Aye.
Director Jex,
Aye.
Director Jorgens,
Aye.
President Donner.
Aye. We will continue holding meetings remotely. I will open public comment for items not on the agenda. Marcia, do we have any hands raised or have we received any correspondence?
We do have one hand raised. We've also received one written public comment received after 3 p.m. today by Kelly Morris Nichols.
Okay, we'll do the caller, please.
You want me to do the hands raised first or read the
Yes,
written?
please. Let's do since he's on right now, and let's. Thank you.
Yep, it's David Sylvester.
Hello, David. Can you hear me?
It's on mute.
Okay, I can hear you fine. I'm not used to this, entering a meeting this way, and I don't see my picture, so I hope you can see me.
Well, we can certainly hear you.
Okay, great. So, I only raised my hand because I didn't know I was if you knew I was attending the meeting, so I can put my hand back down.
Okay, do you have a comment that you would like to have the board hear?
No, not at this moment.
Okay, well, thank you for attending the meeting.
You're welcome.
With respect to this written correspondence that Marcia is going to read, there are two names that I've requested be redacted due to the potential that involves confidential medical information, but the rest of the correspondence, she'll read the rest of the correspondence.
Okay, thank you, Marcia. We're ready when you are.
Okay. My name is Kelly Morris Nichols. I am a former firefighter paramedic of MOFD. I was retired out on disability after being struck by a vehicle on Highway 24 on the 2nd of December in 2012. I was pregnant with my second child, shattered my left foot, which needed to be fused, broke my tibia and fibula, and severely injured my knees, which have had multiple surgeries, including a total knee replacement last month. The accident has changed my life entirely. I'm in pain 24/7, suffer from PTSD, and it ruined my marriage with Matt Nichols, who was a battalion chief and is currently a captain with MOFD. Collectively, myself, redacted, and MOFD sued Caltrans as well as one of the drivers. Due to the firefighter's rule, our attorney had to appeal several decisions. We did collect money in a settlement from Caltrans. Part of that was left in a trust account per MOFD's request for work comp reimbursement. Years later, we went to trial against the driver. MOFD, redacted, lost, and mine was a hung jury. I was scheduled for retrial March 28th of this year. Due to my divorce and immediate need to buy my ex out of our house, I chose to settle, hoping I could use that money for my home. It has been 5 months since the settlement, and yet I cannot get my money because MOFD has not given my attorneys a specific amount they anticipate to collect for work comp. This is so frustrating. I had to postpone the buyout and refinance, and now the rates are super high, which costs me a lot more. I would really love to finally put all this in the past and move on. It would be great if MOFD could reach out to my attorneys and release my settlement. If there is an amount they have in mind, at least share that with us. I do not feel that I should have to pay back anything. All the after accident reports came back showing negligence on MOFD's behalf. Standards, OAGs, and freeway responses were changed. Please acknowledge my request. This is going on 10 years now, and I'd love some resolution and peace in my life. Thank you, Kelly Morris Nichols.
Thank you. Thank you, Marcia.
We do not have any more hands raised, and I've not received any other written public comment.
Okay, I will close public comment for items not on the agenda. Administrative citation hearing, item 4.1. Administrative citation hearing for the property located at 118 David Drive, Moraga, APN 2584700046, administrative citation number 22-1398-001.
Good evening, directors. In accordance with the MOFD Administrative Citation Ordinance 21-01, a person who receives an administrative citation may contest the citation on the basis that there was no violation or that he or she is not the responsible person, or may seek a reduction in the amount of a fine imposed for a repeat violation on the ground that he or she made a bona fide effort to comply after the first violation, and that payment of the full amount of the fine would impose an undue financial burden. To contest the administrative citation or seek a reduction of the fine imposed for a repeat violation, the person shall submit a request for a hearing to the district clerk within 30 days following the date of the administrative citation. On June 3rd, 2022, MOFD conducted an inspection of 118 David Drive, Moraga, assessor's parcel number 258470046. Violations of MOFD ordinance 20-01 fire code were identified on the property. A pre-citation notification was issued ordering the property owner to correct the violations listed in the pre-citation notification within 30 days of the date of notification. The pre-citation notification advised the property owner that failure to correct the violations would result in the issuance of an administrative citation and a $100 fine. MOFD re-inspected your property on July 11th, 2022, and determined that the open violations listed above have not been corrected. Accordingly, on July 12th, 2022, MOFD issued administrative citation number 22-1398-001 and a $100 fine. On July 18, 2022, the owner submitted a request for a hearing stating that he is not the responsible person, attachment A. The administrative citation 22-1398-001 has been placed on hold pending adjudication. After considering the testimony and evidence presented at the hearing, the board shall issue a written decision by resolution supported by findings to uphold, dismiss, or modify the administrative citation and setting the amount of the fine, if any. The board clerk shall deliver a copy of the resolution to the person requesting the hearing. The board's resolution shall constitute the district's final administrative decision. The resolution shall state the time for judicial review of the board's decision governed by Government Code Section 53069.4. On August 9th, 2022, MOFD met with the property owner and provided a copy of the Contra Costa County Assessor's parcel map outlining the parcel, illustrating the parcel boundaries. This is attachment B. On August 12th, 2022, a copy of this staff report and supporting documentations, supporting documents, attachment C, were provided to the property owner. Status of the fine. Mr. Sylvester has deposited the full amount of the fine imposed. If the board upholds the administrative citation and the fine amount on deposit with the district shall be retained by the district. If the board upholds the administrative citation but reduces or eliminates the fine imposed, the district shall promptly refund the excess amount of the fine deposited. If the board dismisses the administrative citation, the district shall promptly refund any deposited or any fine deposited together with interest at the average rate earned on the district's portfolio for the period of time that the fine was held by the district. Staff recommendations: discuss, deliberate, open the administrative citation hearing and hear public comments, review documentations for the property and hear from the property owner and or agent. And item number 5, adopt the resolution 22-20.
Thank you, Fire Marshal Isaacs. I will open up public comment, excuse me, on item 4.1.
So Mr. Sylvester is here. He earlier raised his hand.
Let's give him a minute.
Well, is his considered public comment, or is he the actual agenda item?
He is the property owner.
Right, but so he's not public comment. He's the person who is actually on the agenda, not random public.
Yeah, and he has 10 minutes to speak.
Is that part of the public comment, or is it separate?
No, it's not. It's his hearing.
Right, that's my point.
Yeah.
This isn't his time to talk yet.
Marcia, do we have any hands raised or received any public comment regarding item 4.1?
We do not have any hands raised, and we have not received written public comment.
Okay. Do we know if he's having technical difficulties?
I have not received any communication that he's having any difficulties. Let's see.
Thank you.
So let me communicate with him.
While we're waiting, can we have some discussion? What do you think?
Actually, you need to hear his.
Okay.
So this is a due process hearing, and so.
Okay, got it.
Okay. All right, so this is David Sylvester.
Perfect.
I have a one-page document with 2.5 points I'd like to share with you. Is it possible for me to share my screen?
Marcia, can you?
Yeah, I will need to promote him to panelists, and let me see if then we can allow him to share his screen.
Okay.
Are you able to share your screen now?
Okay. Hopefully you can see my screen. It starts with Sylvester 118 David Drive.
Yes.
Okay. All right. So thank you for your time here. I appreciate the thoroughness and the attention that you're providing this issue. I have 2.5 points that to make, and I can make them in less than 10 minutes, I'm pretty sure. And the first one is that I don't believe that this ordinance 289 chapter 12.10 applies to this situation. When I read the ordinance as it was presented to me, it was not about my problem where I live. It was about landscaping around sidewalks and things like that. So point number one, not so sure this is the right ordinance for the issue. Point number two is my property line begins about 40 feet from the center line of St. Mary's Road, making right-of-way maintenance ordinances moot. My property line is on St. Mary, the property line that approaches St. Mary's Road is 68 feet long, and the St. Mary's road width per the plot map is 108 feet wide. The actual paved road is only 33 feet wide. So the rest is road that is not is next to the paved road and not my property. So point two is, even if you had a great ordinance, I don't think it applies to my property because it's not close enough to the road. And then point three, and this is a junior point, but I want to make it anyway, is that the citation communication process that you all had led to unnecessary confusion and delay. This is a big thing, that a big change in what you all have done with property owners, and it wasn't communicated well. All of my neighbors were surprised at the issue about St. Mary's Road. Certainly I was. And I think that there's a little bit more thoughtful approach on your part with sending specific letters with ordinances attached and abatement procedures and all the rules would have been much more helpful, as opposed to the confusion that we all experienced. But that doesn't mean that it's not an issue, that the citation and the abatement aren't issues that you care about and that we care about. It's just that points 1 and 2 in my comments are, it doesn't apply to me. And that's all I have.
Directors, if I could add just one point of clarification, ordinance number 289 is a town of Moraga ordinance. And obviously we defer to the town to figure out the appropriate application and interpretation of their ordinances.
Thank you.
Thank you for your presentation and comments, David. Any comments from any of the directors?
Yes, this is Director Danziger. So, I mean, I would ask the fire marshal or the fire chief to just comment on Mr. Sylvester's contention that this isn't his property.
Director, I would suggest the directors review page 17 of the packet, which shows the county assessor's map. And the county assessor's map shows parcel 46 going to the edge of St. Mary's Road. The question, which I believe, as still displayed on the screen, I believe Mr. Sylvester is proposing, is whether or not ordinance 289, how that applies and where the line is drawn, and whether or not the interpretation of an ordinance 289 means that it is the abutting property owner's responsibility or it is the town's responsibility. That's simply not something MOFD can adjudicate. So we, as with any other parcel, we cite the parcel owner of record. And if their parcel owner of record believes some other party is responsible, either through contract or through interpretation of an ordinance or use agreement or anything else, that discussion is between the property owner and the other party. MOFD is simply not in a position to adjudicate those and provide rulings. And so our belief is that in accordance with the county assessor's map, we have cited the responsible party. And if the responsible party believes that some other entity or party is responsible, that is a discussion that should be appropriately held, in this case, between Mr. Sylvester and the town of Moraga. And it's not for MOFD to interpret the town's ordinances.
So I guess for me, we have the right to, the question is, who owns the piece of property where the road is? Because that's the part we get to. I think you've said very clearly that we get to fine and enforce rules on the property owner. So is this line, we got a copy of the map. Is the problem on what the county assessor says is his property or on a roadway? Because it looks to me like the property lines end, so some property lines have easements over them and you know, you own to the middle of the road. This one doesn't appear to be that way.
Yes, sir. I'm not in a position to, as I said, when we view a parcel that ends at the road, we view that parcel as shown on page 17. It shows the parcel ending at the road, and then the town's ordinance says the abutting property owner, the real property which abuts. And
That's us enforcing a town rule. That's not our job. Our job is to assess the town, and if they say that, then the town's job is, you know, that the town has a rule, then they can enforce it. But that's not our job.
Yes, sir. But if when you view the map, the town doesn't own the road. The road doesn't show an owner. It's there easements that were there were rights that were conveyed to the municipality for the purpose of allowing the public way, but they don't actually hold in fee title the ownership of the roadway.
Well, does the person who is on the phone own fee title to it? Because that's not what the county assessor's map shows.
Yes, sir. The map does not
I'm
show-
looking at the county assessor's map. It shows, you know, endpoints of property lines that end at the road. There is a gap for all of these roads, and those people don't own those roads.
that has not been either the legal interpretation or the actual interpretation throughout not only this district or others, sir. If we were to make that change, that would be sweeping in nature.
Well, that's different. You know, in Orinda anyway, people own to the center of the road and there's an easement. That's a different thing than what this shows.
That's not what the maps show there, sir. The maps show the same indication. The county assessor's map for the majority of the public roads show what this map shows, sir.
Well, look at it right there, David Drive. The person's lot clearly doesn't go into David Drive.
If you look at Russell Drive, sir, and David Drive on the other Santa Catalina, is that what you're referring to, sir?
Yeah.
Yes, sir. That's what the parcel maps show throughout our community.
Right, which says it's not owned by any of those parcel owners.
I'm not in a position to argue with you on that, sir. But
Well, we have a lawyer on the phone. We need to get a land lawyer, in my opinion, because as far as I mean, I bought and sold a lot of land in my life. And when it says, here's your property line, that's your property line. You outlined it in red.
Sir, if I may, the original citation was for the portion of Mr. Sylvester's property that abutted St. Mary's Road.
Okay, I don't know. It doesn't show St. Mary's Road on this map that I'm looking at.
It's that, it's,
Oh, yes, it does. I'm sorry. It's on the left-hand side. Okay. So that's great. But, and again, as long as we're showing, you know, whatever, if somebody did a survey, as long as it's inside where the survey marks are, that's great. That's what I've been saying, as long as it's on his actual parcel. But if it's actually in what this map defines as St. Mary's Road, then it's not his problem, according to us. It might be according to the city of Moraga, but not according to us.
Miriam, any thoughts here?
Hello, directors. My understanding of this, someone can correct me if I'm wrong, is that this citation was issued for land that abuts the roadway that is not part of the roadway.
That's
So
correct.
inside the red box.
Pardon? Yes,
Inside
that's
the
my
red box. Well, that's
understanding.
great. Then my argument's all uninteresting. That's fine. But that has nothing to do with the city of or the town of Moraga. That has to do with us, right? Because it's on his actual property.
Yes, that's my understanding, is that.
That's great. That was my first question, was does the citation apply to things inside the red box you drew on the map?
Yeah, I believe that's Mr. Sylvester's point under bullet number 2.
So I'm sorry, I'm trying to understand. So Mr. Sylvester's point is, he says he doesn't own the property, but the map shows he does own that property. Is that the problem here?
no, may I try to explain?
Yeah, yes, please.
I'm not contesting that my property line shows that I have 68 feet of property line that the next piece of property over is St. Mary's Road. My point is that St. Mary's Road, the paved part of St. Mary's Road is 33 feet wide, which is half the distance of my 68 feet, a little less than half the distance. And you can just eyeball that map, and which is an assessor's map, and see that St. Mary's Road is well longer than 68 feet wide. It's 108 feet wide approximately, which means that there is almost 40 feet of non-paved roadway owned by somebody, not me, next to the paved road. And that's essentially my point, is that you're asking me to abate my property, which is approximately 40 feet off the edge of off the center of the road, or the edge of the road, the edge of the paved road.
So that again, that's back to my point. If we're looking, I'm looking at the red line with a 68-foot line. MOFD has the authority to force this person, the property owner, on that 68-foot border. If we put stakes there and draw a line between them, everything on his side of that versus the St. Mary's Road side of that is his responsibility, according to us. If the Count of St. Mary's chose to pass an ordinance that says, oh, by the way, because you're the neighboring property owner, you also have to do it, that's between the city of Moraga and, or the town of Moraga, sorry, and the property owner, not between MOFD and the property owner. We've done this in the exact opposite way in other parcels, right? So I'm not saying he's going to have to do it, but shouldn't be us that takes him to court or gives him a citation to do it, because we only have the authority, as the chief already pointed out, to give the owner of the parcel the citation, and he is not the owner of the parcel, that part of the parcel, according to him.
I just have one question. Don't I see on the case notes that Gordon Graham met with Mr. Sylvester and that he was going to hire a contractor to take care of it? So did Mr. Sylvester, did you take care of the mitigation issue?
I have reached out to a mitigation firm that is in the process of giving me quotes. I've done nothing at this point.
Oh.
And what precipitated that primarily was in understanding, thanks to Gordon's work with me, I realized there was some more mitigation I had to do on my property, because my property is slightly over an acre. And there's also a dead tree on my property that is more than 100 feet away from anything, but it needs to be removed. So I'm going to have that removed.
So this notice to abate, and the reason we're here, you have not, it sounds to me like you haven't done anything on that citation, right?
I haven't turned any earth or started a mower, but yeah, I've been working on it to work on getting this resolved.
Okay, so I mean, this has been going on since June. And there may be part of this that's in contention, that may not be your property, but it sounds like most of it is your property, right? I mean,
I don't know that we know what, I haven't seen anything that specifies exactly what needs to get done and which parts of his property.
Yeah, for the citation was specific to St. Mary's Road, and that's the issue. And everything else is going to be worked on. It's not part of today's hearing.
Oh, is that true, Fire Marshal or Chief?
Jeff?
Yes, sir. The citation was issued for the stuff along St. Mary's Road.
Okay.
We haven't issued anything else for any of the other violations.
Okay.
But so again, believe me, I want to be supportive of our fire marshals and everything, but if the rule of law is that we can only give citations to the property owner, because for example, we specifically don't give them to renters, lessees, that kind of thing. And it seems to me that at least it appears, somebody needs to get it surveyed, and the part that is not his property, the city of Moraga can deal with. But otherwise, we need to give a citation to the city of Moraga, who can then use their rule to force him to do the roadside work. If the road isn't actually, if the bad stuff that's near the road isn't actually on his property.
Yes, sir. The town doesn't own the roadway though, sir.
Somebody owns it.
They don't hold it in fee title. It's an easement. Generally speaking, we'll certainly run this down.
That's
to make
not
sure
what this
isn't
map
a-
shows. This map shows that he owns the other stuff. I don't know who does own it, but it's not. Look at, all you have to do is go and look at his parcel map, right? And it'll give you the meets and bounds of exactly what piece of property he owns. And if there's an easement, this doesn't appear to have an easement on it for St. Mary's Road. Just telling you.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. We'll research and provide more information, but that is not an accurate assessment of how the maps are drawn. This map is consistent with the maps throughout the community, all of which are easements and not held in fee title by the city and town.
Okay. So he owns more land than this map shows.
Yes, sir. But if it's the board's pleasure, we'll certainly conduct more research with the county assessor and with the town and bring that back to the board next month.
Well, don't forget, somebody drew a red line around it.
Yes, sir. I don't disagree with where the red line is drawn, but I'm saying as a statement of fact, the town does not own St. Mary's Road in fee title.
Okay.
I agree with what Craig is saying, and just to do our due diligence, maybe we can bring this back and get some kind of statement. If I had a statement from the town saying, this is Mr. Sylvester's property, is not ours, I mean, that would be good supporting evidence from.
It wouldn't be the town, sir. It'd be the town will just say that they don't own it in fee title. The county assessor is the determinant to the property lines. But as I say, with the roads, the easement recorded for public use this is how they're reflected on the plates.
Well, but so just a thought, when you're a developer, you sell pieces of property, and most of the time they show you only to the middle of the road, and that's what you own. And then there's an easement. This, it shows lots of easements on here, lots of other lines, utility lines and things. But it doesn't show an easement here on the property. It shows that it measures the 68-foot property line. So somebody can it's really simple. You go back and look at what it says on the title that the title insurance company gave him, and they'll tell you exactly what he owns.
Understood, sir.
I would like to put the onus on Mr. Sylvester to get that information from the county and present it to us. I mean, I'd be willing to put this in abeyance till next month, but I would say, to Mr. Sylvester, go to the county and see what you can do, and give it. He has a month. I don't know if it's.
Well, I'm not sure that it's his job to prove that exactly what part. We're the ones issuing the citation. We better know, because think about the lawsuit going the other way. Gee, you forced me to go spend a bunch of money on something that you were wrong about. Is that really the business we want to be in? Because the way I look at that map,
Yeah.
we're not right. And maybe the city accepted it and didn't know it.
Maybe it doesn't.
Maybe the county accepted it. It all used to be county roads, don't forget. We weren't private for a long time. So maybe they're county roads. Maybe the county owns it. Maybe the original developer that developed it owns it.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't think we know all that.
Okay.
St. Mary's Road is a fairly long road. So
There must be the city. I mean, there are lots of real estate lawyers we can ask this. And if I'm wrong, that's great. But the map that you guys presented shows this property line. You outlined it in red, and it shows the Moraga Road being obviously much wider than it actually is paved.
Yes, sir. That, as I said before, that's consistent of every other plate in Moraga and Orinda. It's simply how the maps are drawn. We'll be happy to come back with more information, but I would not put as much stock into the drawing of the lines on that map to show that, because that would suggest the city and the town own all of the roads and streets in fee title, which they do not.
You're saying that definitively. Okay.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
one of the things that I'm concerned about is the indications of what needs to be done and the lack of response in making it happen. I mean, that's been 2 months that this has been going on and still no action taken by the property owner to do any abatement, which he indicated he recognized needed to be done. And I guess if we delay another 30 days, that's just troublesome to me that we have, if there's dead trees on the property and other issues that are a hazard that are not being dealt with timely, that concerns me. So I'd like to know what action property owner intends to take and how long it's going to take to get it done.
Okay, this is David Sylvester. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Generally speaking, I'd call myself a compliant person, and I've been compliant with the fire for 20 years that I've lived in this property, the weed abatement issues. When Gordon came to my house last week, it was a productive call, and I learned a few things, and including the need to remove this dead tree that's in the woods that is halfway between my house and St. Mary's Road. And I've made the phone calls to get the quotes, and I plan to take care of it as soon as possible. And as I said, my house as it sits now has passed the inspections that you all have had for 20 years and never been fined. And if I need to do more, I'll do more.
One thing I think I heard the other day was that the town of Moraga fairly recently passed an ordinance regulation, whatever they call them, that said that it is the neighboring property owner to the roads that is responsible for doing the abatement on that property. And I think that's consistent with what Orinda now says too, or has said for quite some time. I think Moraga didn't used to do that. So this might be a new obligation. And I guess the answer is from a get it done standpoint, my impression would be one way or the other. And again, I'm not related to the town of Moraga, but it's going to be on the neighboring, either the actual or the neighboring property owner to do the work eventually.
If I may provide background on Ordinance 289, sir, that was in result of Mr. Sylvester's next door neighbor contesting a citation we issued in 2018 or 2019 for roadside vegetation overhanging St. Mary's Road. And as he contested it and said that it was the obligation of the town reviewed their 1990 ordinance and determined that it was vague. And they passed 289 in response to the case raised by the next door neighbor there.
Oh.
So I guess from a practical standpoint, again, not from a do we have a right to standpoint necessarily, sooner or later he's going to have to do it. So you might as well get at it.
John Holtzman, or Miriam, I'm not sure who answers this, but can we just hold this over for another month if we want to? And do we need a motion to do that, or how does that happen?
You probably should have a motion to continue the item if that's what you want, what the board's desire is.
Well, hearing Mr. Sylvester speak, it sounds like he's been compliant in the past. Chief, is there a record on this particular parcel about any previous violations?
No, sir, we haven't been active in that area pending the resolution of the dispute regarding roadside vegetation and the bluff, that area that has not been one of our major evacuation route priorities. So we have not been active in that area in the last several years.
Well, then I think the board should take Mr. Sylvester on his word that he's been compliant and is a concerned Moraga citizen. And I'd like to hear some type of compliance promise from him about the work that needs to be done on his property while we do a little bit of due diligence on this little piece of property that we are debating.
I'm fine with that. If the ordinance is for the property to be weeds to be abated and limbs to be raised within X feet of the road edge or the center of the road, whatever it is, and my property turns out to be in violation, I will take care of that immediately. But that's not, my point is, I don't think that's the case. And, but if it is, I'll take care of it. I only have 68 feet, I could do it myself. The bigger problem is that this is a relatively long piece of land along the road, and serious weed abatement is likely to need shutdown of the road and big crews come in and that sort of thing. It could be very expensive. And you know, there's a couple of property owners here who are living in their houses, and there's an organization, a company that owns property here that doesn't live in houses but has a vested interest.
Sir, if I could be, if for the board may help, I'd point out there are other violations on the property. That obviously the roadside's where we started, but if this parcel is over an acre, as all parties agree, it does require a 100-foot field break from the property line around the entire property. If that property line begins 7 feet from the roadway, then that 100-foot field break is still absolutely required at the property line, even if that is 7 feet from the roadside.
I'm not sure I heard that correctly, but it doesn't matter how big my property is. I don't have to abate anything beyond my property.
I agree with that, sir. If from
Okay.
your property line inward, properties greater than 1 acre require a 100-foot field break around their entire perimeter.
Correct. And that was the new news I got from Gordon. And there's a piece of my property that is going to require some more abatement to get to my property line. And believe me, I'm working on that.
Any other comments or ideas from board members on how to proceed?
No, nothing else. Craig, do you want to make a motion? You want me to do it, or?
Go ahead.
Well, I'd make a motion that we hold this administrative citation hearing in abeyance until the September meeting, and direct staff to come back to us with a little bit more information, maybe a better map, and we'll hear it again in September.
If I can clarify that, sir, there is no better map. We can come back with a detailed
well-
explanation of fee title and easements, but that
Okay.
is the map.
Okay,
Well-
I thought I heard some discussion about Director Jorgens was talking about the red circle.
No, so the red circle just follows the assessor's map, but if you look at any parcel in the
Okay.
community to include on private roads, the property line shows at the edge of the roadway. The easement shows as laid down on top of that. The
You
city
can't give an easement on somebody else's property. You know, the easement's got to be on your property. So your property line has to include the easement footprint, not the other way around.
Understood, sir.
Okay, so,
You can give an easement over your property, but that's it. So either you own the property and you own it, or maybe nobody owns it. Maybe the county just says it's not owned by anybody. But we have to figure out what our code says. Who do we have the legal right to give
okay,
a citation to? Is it the actual title owner of what?
And may
If
I
it turns
ask,
out nobody owns it, because that could happen, don't forget. It might not be owned by anybody. It might be in the ether. Maybe the guy didn't actually buy that. So we need to make sure, John Holtzman,
I'm here.
that we understand what we have in our fire code and our citation capabilities. who we have the right to give citations to is at the actual, when you look at the person's property title, which is really specific, what exact footprint they have. And I'm going to guess that's the only people we have ability to give a citation to.
So we will look at this, and we'll prepare a report for the board.
May I ask what the abatement need is? Is it X feet from the side of the road, the paved road, or the center of the line? What's the rule there?
There are two different standards here. One has to do with roadside vegetation, 3 feet back, 15 feet up, measured vertically. It cannot be anything overhanging the roadway within 15 feet vertically. Parcels greater than 1 acre, however, do require a 100-foot fuel break, that being the reduction or removal of all ground fuels, the removal of any dead or dying trees, and the limbing of any ground fuels underneath trees or tree limbs hanging within 6 feet of the ground or ground fuels, maintained around the perimeter of the parcel 100 feet in and then 100 feet out from the home as well.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, so I started to make a motion and I'm going to make a new motion. We're going to start again, okay? So I'm going to make a motion to hold over this administrative citation hearing till September, and we'll get some additional information on the property.
I'll second.
Yeah, if I can just
Okay.
suggest before you vote on that, consistent with some of the comments that were made by the board members, that I think it should be clear that we're dealing only with the issue of the property that abuts St. Mary's Road, not any other enforcement
Right.
actions or
Yeah.
issues with respect to the property.
Correct.
Yes.
Right. So, well, so are we therefore saying that he has to do all the rest of the work and we're not delaying that? It's only the work that's in question about whether it's on inside that red line or outside that red line.
That's my suggestion, yes. At least that's the import of my suggestion, I guess you should say.
Steve, I'd like to, just a small amendment.
Ed,
I would also encourage the individual to proceed and not wait another 30 days. No, it should have been done back the end of May.
the hearing is only for the area along St. Mary's Road, though.
If I make sure I understand that, the hearing discussion and what the board is delaying until next month is enforcement of the portion of the parcel in question, specifically approximately 7 feet from the edge of the paved road up the hill to where the property line may begin. And that everything on the undisputed side, the south side, well, anywhere interior of the property line, that we should proceed with enforcement for violations that are currently present in those other areas. I just want to make sure I understand the board's direction correctly.
Did he get the violation of all those things at the same time?
Say again, sir?
Did he get the violation saying that he needed to have his 100 feet all at the same time?
No, sir. The initial, as we've done with other parcels, the initial assessment was roadside only. And so when we were out explaining, when Gordon was out on site in the last week or two, explaining the roadside, when we come out to do an explanation, if we note other violations, we note those as well. In this case, those haven't been cited yet. They were obviously verbally explained, but staff held off on citing them in deference to the hearing. Now that obviously we have, if we have the direction that I believe we had, we will move forward with citing those other violations that are clear, that are in undisputed areas of the property.
Okay.
Right.
Okay. I agree with that.
Okay, so Director Danziger made a motion, Director Jorgens second, correct?
Yep.
Marcia, can we, before we proceed with the vote, Marcia, did we have a hand raised regarding this comment or this?
Yes, Mark Evans.
Okay. Thank you, Marcia. Go ahead, Mark.
Hey, good evening. I have a property about the same size, even a little larger than the Mr. Sylvester. I've had to follow all those same things. I'm along a public road. I've had to take it back the 100 feet. I've had to lift it up. I think the issue is maybe Mr. Sylvester, you just haven't stayed abreast of the improvements that have been being made in the Moraga-Orinda Fire District, where it applies to both cities, Orinda and Moraga. But this is not necessarily new information. You just haven't had a chance to hear about it. But And my other observation is, I've looked at a lot of these assessor maps. That's what they pay property taxes on. That, I'm 99.9% certain that assessor map is correct. And the fire district doesn't have time to go double check titles against anything. That's how they manage. They look at the parcel map. That parcel map clearly shows that it's along St. Mary's Road. So the responsibility of the property owner that abuts St. Mary's Road is to follow all the fire code. That's been very well communicated in my neighborhood. We've had people get cited because they didn't follow it, but everybody understands it. So we have potentially, Mr. Sylvester, you need to read more about what's required, but it's pretty clear to me you're responsible to abate it along St. Mary's Road. Thank you.
I think that it's more technical than that, Mark. I think the problem is the chief believes that the property owner owns to the middle of the road or someplace out there and has given an easement to the city or the county or whoever owns the road. In my opinion, that's not what that map shows. It shows that the property owner owns inside what the red line is, and the paved part of the road on St. Mary's Road is not as wide as it's shown on the map. It's only half that wide. And therefore there's a bunch of trees and stuff that are in between, that are in that footprint that's called St. Mary's Road that isn't actually all paved. And that's the thing that's at question. The city of Orinda, for example, where you live, says, hey, it doesn't matter who owns it, you have to fix it. But that's between the city of Orinda and the property owner.
But the chief has said that the Moraga has now done the same thing. And I'm just saying that 68 foot along St. Mary's, that's pretty clear. You can see where the end of the pavement ends.
Well, no, it just shows where the property ends. It doesn't show where the pavement ends. That's the problem.
Well, all the assessments I've read, well, it's still pretty clear, Craig, of where it ends. I mean, I probably could go drive by that and it would be pretty obvious, in my opinion, where that road ends and where the property starts. It's anything off into the dirt. It's the way it works.
Yeah, that's the question, is how that works.
So how are you going to find that out? The fire district did not have the, do you want us to go check all the parcels in all those two cities that double check on long roads that it's correct?
I think the question is, who does the property owner own part of that, what is called that road, and hasn't given an easement, or does some other entity own that? That's the only question.
And where did the easement question come from?
That's what the chief is asserting, that the property owner has given an easement for that road.
Yes, sir. We'll have council run this down and come back with a full presentation to explain it. It certainly, it can be, there are elements of it that are obscure, and certainly there's going to be some deep legal diving to discuss it. But having sat through this discussion on many occasions with before the city and the town, I'm highly confident that the roads are in fact owned by the property owner. Otherwise, those roads would all be ownerless. But we will run that down and come back with a full report from council.
Okay.
Thanks for letting me speak.
All right.
Thank you for your comment, Mark. Marcia, can we get a vote, please?
Director Danziger,
Aye.
Director Jeff,
Aye.
Director Jorgens,
Aye.
President Donner.
Aye.
Thank you.
5.1, brief information, reports related to meetings attended by directors at the district expense. Any directors attend any meetings in the last month?
Michael, you and I attended the 2x2 a couple days ago.
Yep.
And the, I think it was meant to be a brainstorming session. I think there were a lot of good topics we covered, including, the boots, all about the city of Orinda, all of the boots on the ground, what progress they're making on their grant program. Theirs is going to focus on fuel abatement versus ours focusing on home hardening. And they're going to prioritize evacuation routes first. I guess the city council's meeting on that. Maybe it already did actually. And they, I think they're hiring a person to be, a full-time boots on the ground person to help go be a good communicator and get more people in. We talked about, increasing the FireWise presence and encouraging more communities to become FireWise, and that's a great way to get to spread the communication down at a grassroots level. So I think it was a very productive meeting, and we're having another one in roughly a month.
I would agree. Also, we discussed the ongoing insurance issues, cancellation and premium increases, and getting more residents to become code compliant.
Yep.
It was a very fruitful meeting. Any other directors attend any meetings?
Yes, sir.
Okay, next slide, please, Marcia. 5.2, questions and information and comments from board members and staff.
I have just a question. I think this is appropriate time. I just have a question. I think it would be for council. And it's just a general question. If later on, we're going to talk about future agenda items, but what about if you wanted to put an item on a closed session? Is that also included as a future agenda item?
Yes, although obviously the determination of whether it can be on a closed session or not would be up to council. But yeah, if there's an item that you want to have discussed that's subject to closed session privilege, then we would do that.
And so at the end of the meeting where we do future agenda items, is that the appropriate place to
Yes.
mention that item?
Yes.
Okay, good enough. Thank you.
Director Danziger. Anybody else have any questions or comments? Hearing none, we'll go to 5.3. Communications received.
Other than the false alarm provided from the Polands, who we appreciate they're sending their apologies for the burnt steak. Nothing of note.
Thank you, Chief. 5.4, Fire Chief updates. Let's go to finance.
Good evening, directors. I have a brief finance update for you. Start with the strikes team receivable update. Our estimated 2021-2022 outstanding receivable is $160,597. We did just receive the last payment for 2021-2022 on August 2nd in the amount of $10,000. So those payments continue to come in. And our estimated net receivable so far to date for 2022-2023 is $291,674, and that's based on F-42s that we have received to date. Next slide, please, Marcia. Other items. The fiscal year 2022 closing is in process. The interim audit has begun, and we have submitted items to the auditor. And we did implement the unrepresented employees HRSA changes in ADP. So that has been processed and taken care of. And that concludes my report.
Thank you.
Thank you for the report. Any questions from any of the directors? All right, hearing none, we'll go on to human resources.
Good evening, directors. Tonight I have several recruitment updates. So first off, in regards to the ongoing firefighter paramedic recruitment, we have the top 3 candidates. They are continuing in the background process, and we are on track for the successful candidates to enter the fire academy in the beginning of December. Next.
I'm sorry, HR manager.
Yes.
How many vacancies? We have 3 in the process. How many vacancies?
Correct. Yes, we have 3 vacancies, and we have 3 candidates going through the process at this point.
Gotcha.
Yep. Thank you.
Any other eligible members that are not on any eligible people on the list that are not in the process? Should one of the 3?
Yeah. Yes, we do have an eligibility list of 10 people.
Oh.
And so, but the first 3 are going through our process at this point.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. And then next off is the fire inspector plans examiner. The application period was open from July 26th and closed this past Monday. We had 22 applicants, and at this point we are going through the applicants, and we are projecting to have a oral board interview in the next week or two. And then finally, in accordance with our safety personnel recruitment schedule, a battalion chief recruitment was released on this past Tuesday, August 16th. The application period will be through November 16th for 90 days, and the examination process will occur on December 8th. The successful candidates will be placed on an eligibility list that will be good for 2 years. And unless there are any questions by the board, this concludes my HR update.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any questions? All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hearing none, let's go on to Fire Marshal Isaacs, please.
Good evening, directors. For the month of July, year to date, we have a total of 102 dead tree complaints, 147 exterior hazard complaints, property transfer inspections of 389, initial pass 176, initial fail 207 or 213. The formatting is a little different. I have year to date and I have inspections July 1st to July 31st. I'd like to just cover the July 1st to July 31st numbers with you. So our number of re-inspections and assessments is 1,002. Those are combined new assessments and follow-up assessments from the previous month's inspections. We had 608 passed and 394 failed. Number of closed cases, 608. We did not issue any 30-day notices or any notices to abate. We did issue 126 pre-citations, and we have issued 268 citations. Of those 268 citations, 266 were exterior hazard violations and 2 were other fire code violations. No chipping has been taking place since we're focused on our inspection and enforcement, so those numbers haven't changed since last month. Plan review has been remaining steady, keeping staff busy reviewing the plans. We haven't started any of our state mandated inspections of the E occupancies, R2s, R1s. We're waiting for that inspector position to get filled, and then I will go out with that new person and train them on the inspections. I did have a meeting with school staff to go over some of the exterior hazard abatement inspections and some of the stuff that we will be reviewing once we get inside the classrooms and everything for the e-occupancy inspections. Current projects, still working on the re-inspections, property assessments, property transfer. I'm working to get a fire marshal message out, state mandated inspections, dealing with the complaints, working with the county fire marshal group to create our locally amended and adopted fire code. And I am also working with the Board of Forestry on their Zone 0 work group. Next slide, please, Marcia. Here's a list of the violations for July. The top 3: 6-foot air gap, clearance on parcels, and then the 3 and 15 along the evacuation routes still remain to be our biggest violations that we're encountering. Into my report, happy to answer any questions that the board may have.
Thank you, Marshal Isaacs. Any questions from any of the directors?
Yeah, I just have one question. It's directed to Danziger. You know, I understand about the e-occupancies that you were talking about. You're going to get to those. What about just like, do our fuel mitigations of staff inspect school properties for vegetation as well?
Yes, sir.
And I'm asking that question because I volunteer at a facility. Just not going to talk about which one right now, but I do volunteer there. And I do note, and I haven't talked to anyone about it, but I just from my experience as being an ambassador program, I haven't really talked to anyone, but I do note, really violations in that area that are easy to spot. Anyone would see them, and I haven't talked to anyone about it. I haven't talked to you about it. I just want to know, what's the process? Do we look at the school district, other properties, and what do we do about it when we see it?
Yes, sir. So this morning I met with the maintenance supervisor for Moraga School District. We walked their 4 sites. They have open violations and
Okay.
citations that they have been issued. They've done a good job mitigating some of them, but when we walked the school sites, there was still violations present that I noted to them. I did receive an email later this afternoon from the superintendent asking for a meeting, and I just need to confirm date and time to walk through everything with the superintendent. And we do that with this 2 school districts and the high schools.
Okay. All right. So am I assuming that for OUSD that you've already, you're going to do that, or you've already have, or?
We have, sir.
You have. Okay.
Yeah.
Good enough. That's all I need to know.
As a rule of thumb, sir, every public landowning entity in the district has open citations.
All right. Thank you. So let me just, I guess, I got to ask one more follow-up question. So as just a citizen, as a resident of the city of Orinda, I mean, just myself or a family member or something, would it be appropriate? So I think it would be the school board or the superintendent that should be made note that you have violations on your property, right? I mean, if any citizen, anyone in Moraga-Orinda, Canyon, wherever it is, if they saw, just let's say, a dead tree on a school property, to just let them know. I mean, I'm not sure how to go about, if something really clearly violated, like a dead tree, absolutely dead. Would a citizen contact the superintendent or who would they talk to?
Director
you've
Dan,
already seen it.
Director Dan, I think it used to be Stuart House who is in charge of all
Yeah,
of the Orinda school maintenance.
he still is.
And you could also, somebody could notify the fire marshal.
Well, we have a complaint on the top right of our website under How Do I? There's a fire hazard complaint form. Folks who could submit those. Say a significant number of those complaints we receive do not actually turn out to be fire code violations to the point of a dead tree. If the parcel is greater than 1 acre and it's not within 100 feet of the property line or 100 feet of the structure, it's not a violation of the code.
Okay, good enough.
Any more questions regarding the fire marshal's report? Hearing none, let's go to operations, please.
All right, next slide, please. Good evening, directors. Fire season is well underway. We've had members deployed on incidents throughout the state. On the left side, I don't know, Marcia, if you're able to play the video, please try. If not, I'll continue to press on. We have a video taken. One of our members, backing up, please. One of our members was able to fly the Oak Fire, where we had a number of crews deployed. Interestingly, that fire primarily went out when it burned into the scar from the Ferguson fire at the entrance to Yosemite National Park. One of the elements that is fueling that fire is significant bark beetle infestation and associated tree die-off in that portion of the Sierra. You see on the right there, a picture taken by one of our members, what the inside of a bark beetle infested tree looks like. And you can see the significant signs of infestation. As a result of that, we have a large number of dead and dying trees throughout the state. That's something Fire Marshal Isaacs worked on when he worked for CAL FIRE, the Tree Mortality Task Force, and the transition of many of those areas from conifer stands to other things as those trees die off associated with climate change. However, this is not just a high mountain or a Sierra phenomenon in our region. Obviously, we have seen and discussed on many occasions a recent and accelerating die-off of the Monterey pines, not only on private parcels, but on the watershed lands of the San Pablo Dam plantation, as well as continuing spread of sudden oak death. On both of those cases, dead trees, regardless of some of the recent discussion, do not protect our community from wildfire threat, and it's always important to remove them early, as the infestation has the potential to spread to surrounding trees, and particularly with sudden oak death, it's important that appropriate mitigations are followed not to spread those spores to surrounding healthy trees. As a result of these conditions and others, firefighters continue to experience record-setting dry fuel beds as a result of the dry winter, abnormal weather patterns, and above average temperatures throughout the country. Currently, preparedness levels are in an okay place, but we are concerned about some of the fires that started from recent lightning events in Northern California and the continued and increasing drying trend associated with the recent heat waves. Next slide, please. Just one of those things. So you never know where you're going to end up on a fire. We had some folks ended up from our crews ended up in the giant sequoias. As those of you who have been there on happier times, these are simply magnificent trees and awe-inspiring to be near. You also note on the both left and right, you can see indications of where fuel mitigation has been carried out around the base of the tree to reduce the likelihood of ground fire getting into them. That said, fire has clearly gotten into these trees in the past. They are fire adapted and generally do well, but a lot of work has been done to include in some instances wrapping the trees and putting in sprinkler kits with Mark V pumps to try to cool them. Next slide, please. Our folks continue to be out working with members from other agencies and other places, seeing things they wouldn't see here in the district on a normal basis. At the oak fire, the oak incident, Mariposa County, it was at 19,000 acres as of 2 days ago. We had 2 safety officers deployed to that area. We also sent out a Type 3 engine that was joined up with units from Santa Cruz County for a rainbow strike team. And they were able to do some good work on the oak fire. They were then released from there directly to the McKinley fire in the Klamath National Forest and headed to the far north, where that fire is currently 60,000 acres and continuing to burn. Next slide, please. Observation from some of our folks up on the oak fire in Mariposa County. You see a house that was not affected by wildfire, and you'll note some characteristics that are common to all, specifically the fuel mitigation that they've run out significantly. If you look at the bottom right of the bottom picture on the far right side, you can see fire smoldering off there in the distance. You'll note that fire is unable to burn across areas that have been appropriately mitigated. As a result of that, that fire experienced no damage or loss as a result of the passive measures they had put in place well before the fire's arrival. I certainly understand that this might be extreme and probably more than we are ready for as a community, but here's an example of a fire that has no fear in the face, a home that has no fear in the face of fire, between the construction materials, the metal roofing, well-maintained vegetation, and the significant defensible space they've created, pushing out, as it looks like, as far as they possibly could. Next slide, please. Here in the district on August 6th at approximately 08:15, crews received a 911 call showing that the incident location was on Miramonte Road in Orinda. A subsequent call confirmed that it was Miramonte Drive in Moraga. The crews were updated and redirected en route. This is a reminder that there are a number of streets and roads with very similar names throughout our community. When you call from a cell phone, the dispatchers do not know where you are. It's very important that you give the full address to include the city or town and whether you are on a street, road, court, circle, etc., because crews cannot get to an incident if they don't know where it is. Every moment of delay obviously could have negative impacts. In this case, the crews made a heads up correction. They found a 2-story condo with smoke showing from the exterior. Aggressive interior attack were rapidly able to confine the fire to the area of the origin in the kitchen, where it was a kitchen fire that got up into the cabinets and then into some of the overhead void spaces. We believe it was an electrical malfunction in that area. However, that remains under investigation. Crews did a great job, especially given that they were somewhat back on their heels as a result of the incorrect location being initially dispatched. Next slide, please.
Just one quick question on that. I thought there was a capability, maybe we just don't have, we the county don't have it, to know where because most people have the location turned on their cell phone. I thought there were systems, maybe that are expensive, that could tell where you are.
Typically with locating a cell signal, it's using triangulation from the tower, sir. It's a pretty lengthy process, but the location services from a phone call. The 911 system does not have the capability to pull that down from a phone call.
Well, the cell phone tower is like the 40-year-old way to do that. The geolocation that your phone knows within 12 feet where you are is current.
Yes, sir. And
that's
county
why
dispatch-
all the Googles and everybody in the world knows exactly where you are and how they do traffic. So somebody knows how to do that really easily, and Google can give you traffic facts because of it. Why in the world don't people figure out how to do that with a 911 service?
I can't speak that, sir, other than most of those location services are via an app, where the app is passively or actively sending your location services. And with the phone call that's initiating the 911 call, the information packet's not included in that.
Chief, if somebody calls from a cell phone, does that get routed still to CHP, or does that go?
Yes, sir. CHP and Vallejo, they'll ask the nature of the emergency and the location is then transferred to the appropriate PSAT for disposition, in our case, Contra Costa County Regional Emergency Communication Center. They then process the call and ring down the appropriate station. So one of the common concerns we hear from folks after they've called 911 was, I was transferred. The answer is yes, you were, because the cell phone, as I said before, with the call, the 911 system doesn't know where you are. And so the system was built when cell phones were first established, and they were primarily being used on roadways. And therefore, CHP was the appropriate party to start receiving those, 25 or so years ago when that system was established. So you call CHP, they take enough information to figure out the nature of your call and the location. They then pass that to the appropriate dispatch center who starts the interrogation process, dispatch and EMD if necessary.
Maybe in the future, when we send out our inspection notices, we can put down the direct dispatch number for people to put in their cell phones so that we can maybe stop this from happening in the future. Or,
yes, sir.
And also put this maybe on our website. Put this number in your mobile phones instead of calling 911, call dispatch direct.
Yes, sir. We regularly push that information out. We'll certainly push out some more PSAs to call attention to that. It is worth noting, however, that the number to call for PD and the number to call for fire are two different numbers.
I'm aware, because I practice what I preach, and I tell people to put these numbers in their phones.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Called NG 911. It's the new systems.
Yes, sir.
Not our county or whoever hasn't seen fit to spend the money to do it.
Not in service here. Yes, sir.
So we might want to tell the county that's something they got to work on.
We'll certainly pass it along. Okay, next slide, please. And then on August 11th at about 13:09 in the afternoon, Engine 43 responded with Medic 45 and AMR Medic 65 to report of a bicyclist that struck a parked truck on San Pablo Dam Road. Upon arrival, it was determined the patient has suffered severe life-threatening injuries. Crews engaged in immediate stabilization of the patient, exercising field advanced life-saving measures. It was resulted in stabilization. Patient was transported to a level 2 trauma facility at John Muir Medical Hospital, where it's currently they've retained spontaneous circulation as of yesterday afternoon, and is nonverbal but responsive. The cyclist appeared to be head down in a triathlete posed doing approximately 35 miles an hour when they struck the vehicle. So it was an unprotected strike against a stationary object. Significant trauma. Given that area, so we get into San Pablo Dam Road, you're getting into sort of a gray where many jurisdictions come together. This was a significant multi-agency response and was highlighted the interagency interoperability functionality of our crews working with Richmond, with AMR, with our medic, and all of those folks to rapidly stabilize, package, and transport the patient with, at least as of right now, a somewhat positive outcome to a very critical call. I had 3 questions from a director as well to address. We've continued to roll out the ember-resistant screens that the board approved with the grant home hardening incentive program in June. We distributed a full pallet of those to a number of either neighborhoods or groups or individuals to get feedback. That feedback's been overwhelmingly positive. We just received 2 additional pallets, began distributing that, and final review is going through the form through which residents can request both the both the doggone mesh as well as the reimbursement. Those will be posted tomorrow once the final review is complete. That includes the reimbursement without a 1099 for reimbursement amounts up to $599 for the purchase of approved ember resistant vents as shown as on the state's material listing service exclusive of labor for installation. It also includes reimbursement up to $1,000 per parcel with a 1099 issued. So therefore we need a completed W-9 for anyone who's asking for $600 up to $1,000 reimbursement. And those 1099s will be issued in February when we do our true up, but the reimbursement will be provided within 30 days of receipt of the request. We've got a significant amount of mesh was provided to the Camp Olinda Firewise group who had asked for some to try it out, as well as some other involved neighborhoods where, as I said, we're receiving very positive feedback. Folks have been cutting them into circles and using them in all sorts of interesting ways to cover both rectangular and round vent holes. So that since feedback has been good, it turns the feedback's been very easy to manipulate. A simple set of tin snips, or even in one case, they were using an X-Acto knife successfully. Also, as we've talked about before, the state fire hazard severity zone maps last published in draft in 2007 and updated in 2009 in their final form. The SRA updates have been released to the CAL FIRE units. We expect to see them for the rest of us, hopefully as soon as next month. And the LRA maps, the local response area maps, we're anticipating those by December. So we are getting closer and we continue to monitor the production of those and we'll certainly provide updates as soon as they are released. Once they are released, the district has 120 days during which we can comment on them, suggesting either they should be enhanced or degraded, depending on our opinions locally. And then lastly, we're in a triennial fire code update year. The 2023 codes were released last month. Our fire marshal's been working with a countywide consortium to bring forward a proposed model code for all of Contra Costa County. We also have interest from portions of Alameda County and Marin County to adopt a similar amendments to the fire code in the form of a model fire code. As that process is completed, we will bring the proposed amendments to adopt and amend the California Fire Code to the MOFD board. That require a first hearing and a second hearing. Upon adoption by the MOFD board, it'll go to the city, to the town, and to the county board of soups for ratification. We hope, cautiously optimistic, that we may be able to have that process complete by the end of the year. But it'll be tight. Normally those the updated codes are released in January, February. This year they were obviously later, which puts us slightly behind. That I'd be happy to answer any questions from the board or members of the public.
Any questions from the directors? Marcia, do we have any hands raised or?
We have two hands raised.
Okay, thank
Mark,
you.
Mark Evans.
Hi, Mark, go ahead, please.
Hey, thank you. Hey, Chief, I don't know if it's appropriate to ask, but we did have a case, a citation last month. I think it was 34 La Campana Road. There's a lot of discussion about that one. I'm just interested to hear if that has been resolved, or because that was an important example of what the fire district is trying to make happen with some people that have difficulty keeping up their properties.
Yes, sir. As you may recall, the board directed abatement, but directed that abatement be deferred no greater than 60 days. A resident entered into a contract with a local tree service for the mitigation of that parcel. The resident subsequently canceled that contract. The district is now moving forward with the process of securing a trespass warrant, of posting an RFP to identify a contractor who is able to competitively bid the project. As we get the trespass warrant back and as we get the results of the RFP back, the district will move forward with lien funded abatement of the parcel.
So the compromise we made with the local neighbors didn't work.
No, sir. I believe they were unable to raise the appropriate funds.
That's too bad.
Yeah, it's too bad.
Mark, it sounded like you had another comment, or are you done?
I was done. That was really just the one I want to talk about, I guess the only other comment is I'm just very impressed with the fire marshal's report and all the work that's going on. I also saw the inspector come through my neighborhood. So really, as much ground as you're covering, I'm very impressed, appreciative of all the efforts of MOFD to help us make our emergency roads easier to get down when we need them. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments, Mark. Marcia, do we have any more hands raised?
Yes, Karen Peel.
Hi, Karen.
Mute myself. Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can.
Okay, yeah, this is Karen Peel, and I also just had a question, follow up on 34 La Campana. My understanding, I believe there was 2 weeks to get a signed contract and then 30 days to complete the work. It sounds like the trespass warrant is underway. I don't know anything about the timing for that kind of a legal process. Can you give me some information on timing and what the neighborhood could expect as far as, actual abatement?
I cannot, ma'am. We're relying on the availability of district counsel to make a lawyer available to go before the administrative law judge. We're then relying on the judge having the time to be able for the hearing and then to give us the trespass warrant. Those are outside of our control, obviously moving as fast as we can with those. And then the RFP to comply with our procurement ordinance. We have to post the RFP for a period of time. We have to get a contractor to bid for it. And then we have to identify the contractor's availability to complete the work. We're moving as fast as we can on these things, but we're now relying on 3 external entities. So I'd be very hesitant to put a time frame on this.
Okay, thank you very much.
The district is eager to get it done. Marcia, do we have any more public comment or received any written correspondence?
We do not have any more public comment.
Okay, I will close public comment on items 5.1 through 5.4, and we will move on to the consent agenda, items 6.1 through 6.5. Any comments on the consent agenda from any of the directors?
Mm-mm.
I will open up public comment.
Oh,
Let me open up public comment, Director Jex, thank you. Hold on to your question. I'll open up public comment on consent agenda items 6.1 through 6.5.
We do not have any public comment.
Okay. Thank you, Marcia. I will close public comment on consent agenda items 6.1 through 6.5. Director Jex, go ahead with your comment, please.
just a comment and maybe a question. Looking at the check register, the first payment, which is the prepayment on the retirement to Cirrus, last year it was 53 or 5.3 million. I think I know the reason for the difference. My comment really only is, I guess, Glorianne, when we get to page 61 of the annual report, where there's the contribution shows reconciliation between the contribution made and the actuarially determined liability. There may be a difference as a result of that change. Just a heads up on that to be aware of. The other question I had was on the operating reports, where there was very little activity, I guess I would say, in terms of entries made. Is that a timing issue, or is that, I think 3 of the funds, there was nothing, or no activity, the operating fund, general fund, very little. Is it just a timing of processing of information? I know I've talked about this before. There is some accrual activity and some cash activity.
Right, so there was no activity in the debt service fund because there weren't any debt payments or anything for the month of July.
Right.
The same with capital projects, no capital projects expenditures were incurred in July, so there's no activity for that as well. And then also the tunnel East Bay Hills, there's no expenditures in July that were submitted, so there's no activity for that as well. So that's why it's just in the general fund is where you see expenditures.
So the only thing that's reflected there is cash expenditures, but there's no accrual accounting recorded.
For the payroll is accrual, right? Because the payroll was paid August 10th and the expenses were incurred for July 2022.
So that was recorded. Any others of significance?
No, because there was no others that were significant.
Okay. All right. That was the only comment.
I move we approve the consent agenda items 6.1 through 6.5.
I'll second.
Hearing a second, Marcia, can we get a vote, please?
Director Danziger,
Aye.
Director Jex,
Aye.
Director Jorgens,
Aye.
President Donner.
Aye. Moving on to the regular agenda. Before we move on to 7.1, I believe that the chief wants to address the board for a moment.
Thank you, sir. Two items with the board's consent. One, my apologies. Last month, the board directed to carry over the discussion of the retirement health savings account for battalion chiefs over to this month. I inadvertently directed it being take off and then failed to circle back to have it placed back on the agenda. That will appear next month, and I apologize for that not appearing on the agenda this month. Second item, just as a full disclosure, there will be a full report about this delivered next month. But you may recall the state of California granted us $250,000 for fuel mitigation work along the Pinehurst Way in the unincorporated southern portion of the district along Pinehurst Road in vicinity of the community of Canyon. That contract was signed by me on August 26, where I received a confirmation immediately stating this via DocuSign saying this contract's been signed by all parties. I then turned to and given the timing and hoping to take advantage of the limited window to get fuel reduction work done before the onset of our fall fire season, directed the team to begin executing additional work on that property or in that area. That resulted in expenses being incurred from the 27th up until September 21st, when we received the final executed copy of the contract back from the state that had been signed by the local unit and then gone to CAL FIRE Legal for additional review and didn't come back to us till September 21st. When we submitted the reimbursement for those expenses, those were returned as not as impermissible because they were prior to the execution of the effective date of the contract on September 21st. That resulted in approximately $130,000 being expended in fuel break work that will not be reimbursed by the state. We're continuing to ask if maybe there's some double secret waiver we can get, but generally speaking, that it's very likely that work will end up not being reimbursed. So for next month, so that is my fault and my error, and I apologize for the oversight. Next month with the full staff report to the board, what that will outline is an option that the performance period for the execution of that fuel break work runs through June of 2023. So there'll be two items for the board. One is an adjustment to last year's budget that would adjust for revenue that we anticipated to receive that we will not receive as a result of that administrative error. The second is, however, we can make a budget adjustment to this year that would add $130,000 in anticipated revenue and authorize the district to continue doing work in that area to expend the remaining of those funds. The third option would be to return the funds to the state. Well, essentially to return the funds that are obligated but not spent. We haven't actually received the money, but it's place held for us. So it was my error. I leaned in on something that was not a fully executed contract. My sincerest apologies for the misuse of the district's resources in that way, and this will be captured in a full staff report next month.
Any questions for the chief regarding these two items?
Obviously, things happen. It's, not a problem. So you said that you got a DocuSign saying they'd all been signed. I guess it seems maybe we want to follow up and understand how that got issued, because it makes sense that you would have relied on that. But I guess just understanding what agency or what mechanism generated that thing which appeared to be correct, but didn't, wasn't. Maybe there's a process improvement we could suggest to the state or somebody along there someplace.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Chief. And then also, before we move on to the regular agenda, I would like to ask the board that we move 7.4.
We're not there yet.
I'm asking that we remove 7.4, the single role EMT paramedic, to next month, because I am still doing some information gathering with some departments that have implemented this program. And I would like to postpone the discussion till next month.
So are you calling a vote on that?
Yes, please. I need somebody to second the motion.
I'll second the motion. So the motion is just to
Move 7.4 to next month's agenda.
okay. Yeah, I'm okay with that. Second.
Thank you. Marcia, can we get a vote, please?
Director Danziger,
Aye.
Director Jex,
Aye.
Director Jorgens,
Aye.
President Donner.
Aye. Thank you, board. 7.1, PAR's other post-employment benefits, pre-funding and pension rate stabilization trust program, annual client review.
Good evening, directors. The district contracts with Public Agency Retirement Services to provide trust and investment management services to pre-fund retiree healthcare OPEB benefits and to invest pension rate stabilization trust funds. PARS provides an annual client review. Tonight, we have in attendance 3 representatives from PARS and Highmark Capital Management who will provide the annual review. I'm pleased to introduce Mitch Barker, Anthony Armas, and Andrew Brown, and I will turn it over to them at this time.
Thank you, Lori. Will your staff person bring up our presentation, or should Anthony do that?
Yes,
I think
yeah, I have not received that presentation, so I will go ahead and stop share.
Okay.
And you should be able to share.
All right, thank you, Anthony. Can everyone see that okay?
Yes.
Yes.
Very good, thank you. Again, my name is Mitch Barker, Executive Vice President of PARS. Great to be with you again. Next. Just a reminder for anybody that might be new to the presentation tonight. PARS are trust administrators for the 115 Trust. We do the record keeping, the accounting, and also the plan compliance. The trustee is U.S. Bank. They are the custodian of the assets and also provide fiduciary oversight. And Highmark Capital is our investment management partner, and they invest the money at a risk tolerance level commensurate with the goals and objectives of the fire district. We expect this slide to change by the next time we get together. Last fall, U.S. Bank tendered an $8 billion offer for Union Bank, the parent company of Highmark Capital. And I'm going to turn it over to Andrew Brown to give a very brief update on what's the latest relative to that acquisition.
Thanks, Mitch. Yeah, unfortunately, it is a very brief update because there's no new news. We are still waiting for regulatory approval. That regulatory approval comes from 3 bodies, the FDIC, the SEC, and the OCC. So as soon as one of those bodies blesses the acquisition, it is thought that the other 2 will follow suit. Our best guess back, I think back when we last got together in February, was we were pointing to a May legal day 1 start date. So obviously we were a little bit ambitious on that. We'll notify the district as soon as it does come through. But right now we're still waiting for regulatory approval.
Okay. Thank you, Andrew. Next slide. Just a reminder also, this is an IRS approved trust. So the earnings off of the assets in that trust are tax exempt. It is a combination trust, so it has accounting buckets for both OPEB and pension, both post-employment benefits.
You have funded to approximately 2.8 million for OPEB and pension, approximately 6.8 million in assets. Just a reminder, using the pension as an example, there are two ways you can use the money: either reimburse the district for pension-related expenses, or you can pay the retirement system when you deem it appropriate. Next, I'll turn it over to Anthony to get into specifics of your plan and the up-to-date numbers.
Perfect. Thank you for that, Mitch, and good evening, Board of Directors. Thank you for having us here tonight. So I'll touch briefly on the OPEB and then the pension plan. So starting off with the OPEB, which started with PARS back in April of 2015. The position of Administrative Services Director is deemed the plan administrator, so the one authorized to make any updates or changes as needed to the plan. The current investment strategy is in the Capital Appreciation Index Plus passive strategy within its own individual account. And that's something that Andrew Brown will dive deeper into in his portion of the presentation. But to give everyone here a quick snapshot as of June 30th, the first and initial contribution was made in May of 2015. So shortly after inception, $84,000. Since then, the district has been making active contributions into the OPEB plan, so an additional 2.3, totaling $2.4 million worth of contributions since inception. No disbursements requested out of the trust to date, and the account has earned $435,000 of returns. So putting all of that together, again, as of June 30th of 2022, the district's OPEB trust at $2.79 million. The next slide, page 6, just provides a graphical representation of what I just touched on, but gives you the breakout through each of the fiscal years and the active contributions that the district has been making. The next couple of slides touches on the liabilities of the OPEB. This is data pulled directly from Precision Actuarial with a measurement date of June 30th, 2021. So as of that measurement date, there were 66 actives that may receive the benefit one day, 149 retirees enjoying that benefit currently, totaling 215 plan members. Then we can see how those demographics then translate to the liabilities for the district. So again, with that June 30th, 2021 measurement date, here are the liabilities. A few items to highlight. You can see between the two measurement dates, the discount rate going from 6.25% to 6.14%, which is the expected long-term rate of return. You can see between those two measurement dates, the total OPEB liability did go down from 16.2 down to $14.4 million. Assets in the OPEB trust with those active contributions did go up to $2.9 million, putting the net OPEB liability at $11.5 million and a funded ratio just about at 20%.
So those are year-old numbers. Is that what it's supposed to be?
That's the latest actuarial report with a measurement date. Those are taken care of or obligated to do so every 2 years. And that was based on the latest report provided to us by the district. But usually for these actuarial studies and reports, it is a snapshot in time that is captured.
Okay, Andrew?
Yeah, I don't know, Craig, maybe you and I are on the same page. These probably are the most recent actuarial official reports constructed. But I know recently, Gloria, and we ran our estimated returns for the current asset allocation policy because formalized in February of this year, when we incrementally added to our policy allocation to equities, I think what the number was 6.89%. So Gloria, I would imagine. Now, did you send that report off to Precision then?
Yes, and the updated actuarial valuation as of June 30, 2022 is in process, and a draft will be presented to the board at the September board meeting.
Yeah, and the best guess, because that's out of my swim lane, but I would imagine discount rate is up and liabilities based on the discount rate might be down. But I won't speculate too much on that. That's their job.
We can't change the discount rate just randomly because the discount rate has to do with what how the liabilities are going up too.
Right. So it's not the only, the number 6.89 is not the only driver in that calculation, of course.
So how does the total liability go down? Does that include the fact that we put more money, there's $1 million more in our account also? Is that part of what? Because that doesn't really change the liability, that just changes what the net liability is.
Yeah, so once again, the hedge I offered about not drifting into someone else's swim lane, I probably should have been louder on that. But just from the notion that, the point that I was raising, that if the discount rate is higher, as you divide, your numerator is higher, it should lower if your denominator is higher, your numerator should be lower. All things being equal, but as you point out, they're not all equal, because you could have other factors, maybe duration of lives of plan participants, maybe more plan participants, maybe salaries are going up. So
yeah, but all that should have made things it got almost $2 million better, and we lowered the discount rate, which means the liability should have gone up, not down, all else being equal. And we have almost
so
exactly
maybe you
the
have some
same
other
number of
dynamics going
participants.
on. Yeah.
Seems really strange.
Yeah, the other comment, this is Director Jackus. The number of employees was up between those two periods from, what was it, 58 to 60, 50 or 66?
Anthony, can you go back one page?
Yep.
Yeah, excuse me, 59 to 66.
Yeah, it seems strange that given those numbers, that the actuarial number would have come down as much as it did, especially since you lowered the discount rate, which all else being equal would have made the number go up.
True. Total plan participants looks like it went down 2. I don't know if that's driving it. Retirees looks like it was down 9. Maybe there's a dynamic in there. Yeah.
Okay.
The actuary will definitely be able to address that question. Gloria Ann can check in with them and find out why line 1 did change so much. All right, Andrew.
Okay, next page, please, Anthony.
Yeah. So with that, we'll actually just touch briefly on the pension update for the district as well before we dive into that investment update with Andrew. So with the district's pension plan, started January of 2017, administrative services director, also the plan administrator, current investment strategy, also in the capital index plus strategy. For that quick snapshot, first contribution to the pension was March of 2017 of $300,000. Also active contributions, an additional 6.4, totaling $6.7 million of contributions into the pension account. No disbursements made out of the trust to date, $195,000 worth of returns. All of that together as of June 30th, $6.8 million in the pension side. And then again, just a graphical representation of what I just touched on with a breakout through each of the fiscal years. And again, all of those active contributions. The last point I'll make on the pension side is the funding status. So again, all of this data pulled directly from the latest annual comprehensive financial report in terms of your pension funding status under CC-SARA. Approximate total pension liability, $215.8 million. Fiduciary net position or assets, $193.5 million, putting the net pension liability at $22 million, and a funded ratio just shy of 90% for the pension funding status.
Yeah, the problem is that's more than a year-old number, and it's gotten a lot worse.
It's the latest we can report from.
Well, I'm just saying, but just as a verbal overlay.
Right. Okay.
All right. So yeah, with that, I will turn it over to Andrew with the investment update portion.
Yeah, and so it dawned on me a second ago when we were introduced as the annual update. I think mentally coming into tonight, I was thinking about maybe doing the 6-month update, just in so much as I think we got together in November of last year, and then maybe a January and a February meeting. Although I don't think we presented numbers in the February meeting. That being the case, hey, we can focus on the 1 year, but the 1 year and the 6-month kind of tell a similar story. In other words, a lot of the pain that we've felt in capital markets for the last 12 months really have been borne out in the last 6 months. I'm going to start with the good news. Cash over the last 12 months generated a positive 0.16 number. So there's the highlight. Obviously, it's been a pretty difficult 6 months with the Fed hiking interest rates in the face of very, very significant inflationary readings out there in the economy. What are we up on CPI for January, or not January, but July? We had an 8.5% CPI reading, core CPI backing out food and energy, which are up significantly over the last 12 months. Still, core CPI is at 6%. So inflation is significant throughout the economy, throughout a variety of sectors, and the Fed is acting accordingly, raising rates significantly. From our standpoint, we think that the Fed funds rate can get up to 3.25 by the end of this year. We think that the Fed might have maybe 2 hikes in it next year. So by our best guess, we're looking at probably somewhere right around 3.5 Fed funds rate in 2023, which certainly could put more pressure on fixed income markets. When you look at the fixed income market for the last 12 months, I know minus 9.1% is not as bad as minus 14.7% on the equity line. But let's face it, we don't expect bonds, if we just look at the last 50, 60 years, I mean, bonds don't go down that much, or they haven't gone down that much historically. Equities going down 14.7%, that probably happens once every 3 years. But the bond market declining double-digit numbers, no, that's a pretty significant negative occurrence. So yeah, bonds down 9.1% over the last 12 months, equities down 14.7%. All categories, with the exception of REITs, posted some type of double-digit decline. Large cap S&P 500 index funds minus 10.3%, mid cap at a minus 17.7%. Small caps were the biggest decliner at a minus 25.4% over the last 12 months. International minus 20.3%. You will see that we have 2 benchmarks there that we at least present on this template. MSCI EFA index, which is a developed international benchmark, and then the MSCI emerging market index. Post-February, based on the planned policy, we eliminated emerging markets from the plan. So I don't want anybody here to think, though, no, we have EM still in the portfolio. We don't, but it is just kind of part of our template. So we do present it here in the numbers. And then, yeah, REITs. REITs minus 8.1%. That's the best equity category we can show you, at least for the last 12 months. If we were marking to market for the month of July, I do have some good news. OPEB was up 8.3% positive, and pension was up 8.3 as well. So year to date, that minus 18.5 number goes down to about minus 10.2, 10.3% and change if we factor in the month of July. But
how did the fixed income markets do during that time too? Did they come back much or not?
Yeah, so our equities were up 8% in July, and fixed income was up 2.2%. So a bit of a rally in the face of, at the end of July, we got that 75 basis point hike. So a lot of the sell-off in the bond market has been discounted. How much of that would be discounted? Maybe, well, the Fed funds futures, Craig, is calling for a 3.5% Fed funds rate by June of 2023. So I guess in theory, if we did go from where we are right now, 2.25 to 3.5 next June, you might not see a drastic sell-off in the bond market. But if inflation numbers are sticky, staying elevated across a variety of categories, and if the bond market believes that hey, the Fed's not going to stop until they get to something with a 4 handle on it or higher, yeah, our bonds will continue to sell off, and then those great July gains that we got, we'll probably give those back somewhere along the way in short order, if the market thinks the Fed's final destination is somewhere right around 4% or higher. So 2.2 bonds, month of July.
So it's a good thing we got out of bonds.
-9 is not as bad as -14, but
yeah, but it came back more. Okay.
Yeah, your point's taken in terms of running to safety and security. The door was shut over the last specifically the last 6 months in terms of that safe haven.
Yeah.
Next page, please, Anthony. Positioning. This is positioning as of June. You will see that we're currently allocated at 90% equities. We do have 7% targeted in fixed income and 3% in cash. In February, we did modify the strategic asset allocation range. Those are depicted in the middle of the page. So our equity plan allocation ranges 85 to 100%, 0 to 10% on fixed income, and 0 to 5%. And as I shared a second ago, when we think about what that maps out to over 20 to 30 year horizon, 6.82% would be our forecasted expected rate of return.
So why again do we have 3% in cash when we know we're not going to use the money?
Yeah, in this case, cash. Well, I guess the 0.1 something percent was the quote unquote safe haven.
Yeah, but that okay.
I mean, so the way our worldview looks at it right now, we are underweight stocks, we are underweight bonds, and then I guess by definition that leaves cash as sort of the plug. So is 3% a huge overweight from a 1% policy point? Yeah, I don't think anybody would say that, but maybe for directional consistency. I mean, the bottom line: 90% stock, 10% bond cash portfolio. Equity markets rally like they did in July. We will certainly participate in the rally train, so to speak. Next page, please. Pension. The numbers for pension and OPEB are just a little bit different. And that's really just more of a function of when you make a contribution. And I think the pension contributions are a little bit higher, the current run rate. I don't get too cute on it, but I do try to average it in over maybe a multi-day period of time. So to the extent that averaging in process is fruitful, you'll see maybe a slightly higher number here. To the extent that maybe we didn't get the best prices, and on the days that we average in, maybe it'll be slightly lower. Once the averaging in process is done, the plans map over, and they're very congruent. And I think that it will show on the next page, Anthony, where yeah, I mean 90% equities, 7% bonds, and 2.99, 3% in cash money market. So once the money's put to work, allocations are the same. And I think that the last page I have.
Why do we, when we're in cash, why do we buy government obligations there? And that's got to be the safest thing you can buy. But there are other things that have higher returns that aren't as safe, but still are.
You mean like a certificate or deposit?
Well,
or something like, or
not very much money in it. So we could even get FDIC insured things that probably earn more than a government bond does.
Yeah, so certainly you are correct in terms of a slightly higher yield. I think we look at more so money market as just sort of an administrative efficient vehicle that we then can, if we're doing the accounting entry, sell money market, buy stock ETF, buy bond fund. In these days, I think that the First American money market, I think we're up to about a 1.93 yield. So it is finally getting a little something. Could a CD or commercial paper yield maybe slightly more? Yes. But then if I wanted to effect a transaction by selling cash, buying bonds, stocks, I'd have to break a CD or something like that. So efficiency is I guess the main reason. The next page is the index funds returns through the fiscal year, June 30th, 2022. I think I kind of gave a fast break version of that report, maybe in the interest of time, but if I went through things too quickly, let me just pause and see any questions at all on anything I shared.
So when we say the S&P 500 growth versus core versus value, is one of those just the regular S&P 500?
Yes, sir. So the middle middle row, that would be core S&P 500. That would be the index, just regular S&P. And then for a tilt to the portfolio, if we favor value or growth or value, we would have more in one of those index-related options. We've had a very, very small tilt to value over, call it, the last 4 or 5 months.
So do the iShares, I thought they had a slightly higher load than some of the competitive index funds do.
So it does depend on who you compare it with. The Schwab, I think that the Schwab funds are a little bit higher. I think that you can find some Vanguard funds that might be a little bit lower. And especially on the real estate side, if you go down, it's from the bottom, the 4th row up, Vanguard REIT Fund, that's 12 basis points. And I think that the iShares offering is in the 20s or low 30s. So we use Vanguard there. And then the Vanguard short-term investment grade bond fund, 2nd row from the bottom, that is, I think that's 12 basis points as well. You see a bigger delta sometimes on small and mid cap. Large cap is really a commodity.
Yeah, but they don't all charge the same rates, but okay.
Yeah.
Just a general question.
Yes, sir.
So when I look at, let's just say the Vanguard real estate ETF, I mean, I personally have ETFs. Is this what I'm looking at here? Is this like for institutions, or is this the same one that I, maybe have funds in? Is this a special one for large institutions like for us, or is it the same one that I can go online and invest in?
That's a very good question. I don't know for sure the answer. My guess would be that you could purchase it if you want to go on your E-Trade. Ticker symbol is V as in Victory, N as in Nancy, Q as in Queen, VNQ.
Yeah, I see that. So these aren't like just for large institutions or public. This is the same ones that anybody can go invest in.
I think all of these are. Go ahead.
Okay.
Yeah, more so on the actively managed mutual fund side, you'll see different share classes, institutional, R5, R6, where on the active management side, you'll see various, not loads, but share classes that have different embedded expenses.
All right, got it. Okay.
Good question. Okay, I think that's the last. Anthony, did I put in one more?
Oh, that's the full report here.
Okay, great.
All right. Any other questions?
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you. Have a good evening.
Sure. Appreciate your visit.
Thank you.
I will open up public comment on agenda item 7.1.
We do not have any hands raised and we've not received any written public comment.
Thank you, Marcia. I will close public comment on agenda item 7.1. Directors, do you have any other questions regarding 7.1?
No?
7.2, direct the discount rate to be used for the other post-employment benefits actuarial valuation report as of June 30th, 2022, and for the pension rate stabilization trust fund.
The district contracted with Precision Actuarial Incorporated to complete the required other post-employment benefits actuarial valuation report as of June 30, 2022. Preparation of the report is in process. As part of the report preparation process, Precision requested from Highmark Capital Management an updated long-term capital market return estimate for the district's OPEB plan. The updated projected long-term expected rate of return for the district's OPEB portfolio is 6.39% net of fees. The prior actuarial valuation report used a discount rate of 6.14%, which was the projected long-term expected rate of return net of fees at the prior year, June 30, 2021. The updated projected rate of return for the pension rate stabilization trust fund is also 6.39% net of fees. The district is currently using a rate of 6.25% for purposes of pension rate stabilization trust fund contributions. Staff recommends the board direct the use of a discount rate of 6.39% for the OPEB actuarial valuation report as of June 30, 2022, and provide direction regarding the discount rate to be used for the pension rate stabilization trust funding in the next long-range financial forecast. This concludes my comments.
Thank you, Lorianne. I will open up public comment on agenda item 7.2.
We do not have any hands raised and we've not received any written public comment.
Thank you, Marcia. I will close public comment on agenda item 7.2. Any comments or questions from the board?
I guess first off, they're carrying out to 2 decimal places, and more power to them if they can figure out within, 1/100% what kind of rate of return we're going to earn. They might just as well carry it out 3 or 4 more decimal places.
Yeah.
Because they have no idea. It's really more, we picked a number that would, the 6 1/4 was picked because it was closer to, even though it wasn't all the way down where the state of California's treasurer said they thought CalPERS was going to earn. They're 2 potentially different things that can vary over time, what the discount rate is for liabilities and what your rate of return on your portfolio is going to be. One has more to do, the inflation, people can argue a lot about how that's going to work, but it's not obvious to me that tweaking these things, I think, is more distracting and misleading than just leaving them the same, unless there's some dramatic difference that happens that's very observable in the economy. And I haven't seen that.
Mr. Director, Jack, because I would agree.
Yeah, I mean, the director Dan's going to say same. I'm on the same page with you, and we've contracted with a company to come up with this, not least for the pension rate stabilization trust. So, I would just have, I have nothing else to go by really, but to approve this. My main concern is the discount rate for the pension rate stabilization trust. Are we assuming that we use 6.25 again? Is that what?
That's what I'm saying. Maybe our rate of return on our portfolio is going to be a little better, but I don't think the discount rate you use for your liabilities, I don't think we know anything different that says it should be a different number.
Okay. I
It's a
would
little
agree.
awkward to use two different numbers there, but, and again, 6.14 versus 6.39, I guarantee they have no idea whether it's 6.39 or 6.48 or anything else, you know. The data that they have, that all the inputs to this had a lot less accuracy than two decimal places for sure.
Yeah, no.
So they never took any chemistry to understand significant figures.
And they haven't, I mean, we're in kind of uncharted territory, it seems, in you know, in the economy right now too. So yeah, I would just go with what they've recommended and stick with the 6.25.
I'm in agreement with that. I think being a little conservative right now is
Mhm.
a good position to take.
You know, market volatility just adds a significant additional risk.
Yeah. So. So 6.25 for the discount rate, the 6.39 for the rate of return on the portfolio. Those are two different inputs.
So are we going to do 6.25 for both?
No.
I would either say that, or if they really want to, the 6.39 for the rate of return on the portfolio and the 6.25 for the discount rate on the liabilities. That's kind of okay. I don't care.
That's what I would support that.
Okay. Can
I agree.
get a motion to?
I so move.
Second it.
Okay. Thank you. Marcia, can we get a vote, please?
Director Danziger,
Aye.
Director Jex, Director Jorgens,
Aye.
President Donner.
Aye. Item 7.3, authorize the purchase of 2 ambulances from National Auto Fleet in the amount of $374,346.94 and approve a capital projects fund expenditure budget adjustment in the increase in the amount of $24,346.94.
Good evening, directors. As discussed during the FY23 budget adoption process, the current capital projects fund budget includes $350,000 allocated for the purchases of 2 ambulances. The district's purchasing ordinance requires completion of the formal bidding process and board approval for this purchase. Sourcewell is a national cooperative purchasing compact with whom MOFD maintains an account. Cooperative purchasing is procurement conducted by or on behalf of one or more public procurement units as defined by the American Bar Association Model Procurement Code for state and local governments. Cooperative purchasing meets the district's purchasing ordinance requirements. Due to ongoing COVID-caused disruptions to the supply chain and associated inflation, the budget amount is insufficient to purchase 2 ambulances. Staff recommends a capital projects fund expenditure budget adjustment increase in the amount of $24,346.94 and provide approval to authorize the purchase of these 2 ambulances. As I'm sure directors and members of the public have seen in their daily activities, supply chain, particularly as it pertains to vehicles, has been particularly impacted. As a result of that, assumptions and estimates that we received during the development of the budget process last February and March are simply not matching the cost on the ground to enter into an agreement. Using Sourcewell as well as attempting to get other bids, we've discovered it very difficult to procure bids, much less items with short delivery times. We recently were quoted a 3-year lag time on the placing order of a fire engine, as an example. As a result of that, we have been able to secure an active quote, which a contract we're ready to enter into with the board's approval. However, as I mentioned, the $350,000 that we identified last year as being sufficient is now insufficient. We recommend the adjustment of $24,346.94 and approval to enter into an agreement to purchase these ambulances to update our fleet.
Chief, I know we had the discussion at the time and I've forgotten. Are we saving the thing that slides in the box, I think you call it, or is it, so this is
a gurney?
No,
sir. The box itself, we're reboxing.
The whole thing you sit in.
Yes, sir. The box which sits on the chassis is, it's not inanimate. It has some moving parts, but very few relative to a vehicle. So this is to rebox, to take the box off our existing ambulances, to refurbish them, and then place them on a new chassis with the associated connections and so forth to make it roll again.
And then what do we do with the old chassis?
The old chassis would be sold to surplus. The market for those is not great. Those have been ridden hard, so to speak.
So do we have an expectation of what that's going to be?
If our previous sales are any indications, are in the $1,000 to $5,000 range.
Wow, because I mean, you can sell the truck that doesn't even run for $5,000.
Yes, we've been the last Suburbans we sold, I believe we netted $1,200 at auction for it.
Wow.
Wow, we got to find a different place to sell them. Do it on eBay. It's much better. I'm serious.
Yes, sir.
Because $1,200 for, I mean, if it has an engine in it and you can start it, I mean, the market's really good for that kind of stuff. The auctions, somebody else is making a lot of money.
Yes, sir. I should point out that those sales predate the current used car market. We haven't sold a vehicle recently.
But that will be netted out against the 24 at some point.
Well, not, Gloria, would you like to speak to where the proceeds from auctions go?
Right, so no, the revenue from selling the old chassis is not netted against any of the expenditure. So it'll be recorded as a sale of district asset revenue.
It doesn't go into the capital fund?
Yes, it will go into it goes into the fund from which whatever we sold was purchased. So in this case, with the vehicle would have been purchased out of capital projects fund. So it will go back into capital projects fund.
So it does get netted out.
It goes back into the capital projects fund, but it's not going to.
But at the moment, we don't have any, our budget doesn't anticipate any money selling it for zero at the moment because we don't have that in the budget.
Yes, sir.
Right. No, usually we have revenue. I think it does include a little bit of revenue for sale of district property.
Okay. I move we approve this.
I just have, wait, I just have a question, Chief. So, if we approve this tonight, what's the anticipated wait time till we actually get, this is here in our district and it's on the road?
I'd be very hesitant to speculate on that with our recent, we're in a very different world.
Okay.
A lot of things, and government purchasing of emergency vehicles seems to be at the very pointy tip of the spear of those disruptions.
Wow. Okay.
Now I move we approve 7.
Okay. I'll second it.
Thank you. Marcia, can we get a vote, please? Oh, sorry. I'll open up public comment on agenda item 7.3.
Oh, sorry, I was ahead of myself.
We do not have any hands raised and we've not received any written public comment.
Thank you, Marcia. I will close public comment on agenda item 7.3, and you can do the vote now, Marcia.
Director Danziger?
Aye.
Director Jex?
Aye.
Director Jorgens?
Aye.
President Donner?
Aye. Committee reports 8.1. Audit Committee.
No meetings.
We kind of already did this in the previous one because some of these at least.
We did some of them. Thank you, Craig. 8.2, East Bay Hills Wildfire Prevention and Vegetation Management Joint Powers Agency meetings.
Nothing to report.
Yeah.
Thank you. 8.3.
They're just working on doing a combined fire code now, and so the district is doing most of that work now rather than a larger group. The districts, multiple districts.
Thank you, Director Jorgens. 8.3, Station 41 Ad Hoc Committee, nothing to report. 8.4, the Ad Hoc Committee with the City of Orinda has already been reported prior. I will open up public comment on agenda items 8.1 through 8.4.
We have one hand raised, Mark Evans.
Thank you, Marcia. Mark, go ahead.
Yeah, so I noticed at the end of the meeting, so I just wanted to share a positive story. It's might be minor, mostly for the chief. It's associated with PG&E. it's okay to share that I had a power outage last night, and I just happened to know where the circuit is in my neighborhood. So I walked down there and saw PG&E there. They explained that a homeowner had contacted them to see some smoking electrical lines on a tree up on Holly Lane. And they got the power out, and they told me they were going to either run new lines or take care of it. And about an hour and a half later, they came in and put the line back into service.
Oh.
I don't know if they communicate with you, but I just thought they did a very good job. I actually didn't find out the power was out until about a half hour later. I just happened to take the interest to see some guy, but I thought they acted very professionally and apparently caught an incident before it became, or caught a situation before it became an incident. So very professional.
Thank you for your comment, Mark.
We do not have any more hands raised.
Thank you, Marcia. I will close public comment on agenda items 8.1 through 8.4. 9.1, future agenda items.
To start the Danziger. So I have maybe two items that might be appropriate for closed session. So I guess this is the appropriate time according to our council to bring those up. The first one would be as a follow-up to the first person who spoke today, Kelly Morris Nichols. I'd like to get an update on the status of what she was talking about. I know some of it does involve probably confidential medical information, but this is the first I heard of it, and it's really concerning to me, the position that she's in, and I'm sure there's explanations, but I'd kind of like to hear it. So that would be the first one I would suggest.
Hang on one sec. So that one, we can brief you in closed session because there is litigation around it. So we can brief you in a litigation closed session. There is a basis for that.
Okay.
I'd like to hear about that too.
Okay. And
likewise.
And we have the second one I would just talk about. We do have a Facility Station 41 ad hoc committee. We've had, nothing to really talk about for, many months, and I just don't know. I really don't know if there's anything else to talk about, but either closed session or open session, I'd like to throw that out there if there's anything to discuss, so I would say perhaps closed session. It just, I'm not sure.
Yeah, there's probably, unless we're talking about the acquisition of land, which would be a closed session item, there's probably not a basis for a closed session on that. Which, you can obviously have it an open session, however.
Okay, so maybe I'll just send an email and see. I'll work on that one after. I don't know if there's really anything to report at this time. So yeah, just that first one.
I think in our budget this year, there's a provision for an assumed purchase.
There's $1 million for engineering and studies, sir.
Okay, that was.
I guess I have another item. There's been in the last year, especially, a significant issue with attendance of directors to our meetings. And I would like to understand what our rules and procedures are about that, what our capabilities would be for, if somebody misses a certain number of meetings or whatever, not having them be on the board. I don't know what our possibilities are for that, but it's been a significant problem, in my opinion. And one of the things you have to sign when you run for office is that you will serve. And not being at board meetings is not my definition of serving. So I would like to understand what our legal possibilities are for putting requirements for a minimum number of board meetings or something, and understand how we could implement something like that.
I'd be happy to prepare a report on that. That is an open session item, by the way.
Right, for sure.
Okay. I'm sorry, I have one more. And I want to apologize to the board and to the chief. So we're in August. So in June, when we were talking about the budget, I said I wanted to submit some changes to the board of directors levels of performance and goals and objectives, and I would do that in the future. I haven't done it yet, but I'd like to see, I'd like to submit that probably in the next week to the chief, and I'd like to see if we can get that. Maybe it's, well, I think probably coming up is a budget, a final budget approval, right? And maybe September, October, I'm not sure. But part of that, I want to submit something that I have it in front of me, but to amend the standard of level of performance and the goals and objectives for the board of directors.
So just to clarify that, the budget was adopted in June. So if there are additional items, I mean, certainly on something that's non-monetary, it'd be the board's pleasure to take that out of sequence, but the normal process would have that reopened as part. Next we'll talk about is the mid-year, and then the budget workshop. Yeah, well, the long-range financial forecast in March, the budget workshop in April, and then the two budget hearings in May and June of next year.
Oh, good. I thought when we discussed it before, when I said I had some changes, I thought it would be okay to, why am I thinking that? I thought I could turn it in by October. Is that, I don't know. Okay, so it's too late to get this as part of the 21-22 budget. You're saying for it to be 22-23 budget?
Well,
We're in the 22-23 budget.
you can, I mean, you can amend the budget. I think what the chief was saying is that's not the normal process. The normal process would be, but the board, can always amend the budget if it wants to.
Okay, and this has nothing to do with numbers. It's just, a change of the words in our goals. So, okay, well, okay. So I think I have my answer. I'll just follow up. That's it.
Anybody else have anything? All right.
So I move we adjourn.
Second that.
All right.
And take care, everybody.
Director Danziger,
Aye.
Director Jex,
Aye.
Director Jorgens,
Aye.
President Donner.
Aye. Good night, everybody.
Good night, everybody. Thanks.
Aye, thank you.